I moved into my current house at the tail end of 2021, and when I did, I immediately started remodeling the bedrooms. One of these rooms would eventually become my studio, where I'm sitting now. It was a long process that for a lot of reasons took the better part of a year, but finally in August 2022 they were finished and I was ready to move into my studio, which I was excited about because it had been a while since I've been able to do anything with music or creativity just because I hadn't had a space to work in. I just had one problem. I didn't have a desk. So this is part of my studio build. Today I am kind of working on what will be my desk. So I'm going to order a standing desk frame, motorized, and I'm going to make a desktop out of these two. And I would say 3 or 4 years ago, the idea of having a standing desk first came to my mind. At first it was an excuse just to have something different and cool, but I also didn't want to look like that pretentious person who has a standing desk. It's kind of like being a vegan. Are you really one if you're not telling every person you meet about it? The more I thought about it, the more I came to justify in my mind. You know, I play guitar, so I could stand up and practice guitar and still have my workstation at waist level. Using that one positive and ignoring any other possible negatives, I set out to build my standing desk. And just like any other project, it starts with the materials. I'm from a local wood shop town, CU Wood Shop. They're called Macaquaba. Macaquaba is a hardwood from Central and South America and have a highly variable color palette ranging from a darkish red to a brown to purple. Frequently has darker stripes in between all of that. And honestly, that's what stood out to me most about these pieces in the store. I saw them, I really liked them. I liked the name, even though I couldn't pronounce it. It had a gorgeous color to them and almost a gradient look to the wood as well. So we picked them up and brought them home. Keep this a light edge on it. It's probably going to be laid out kind of like it is. It's about 5 foot wide. It'll be roughly 30 inches deep. Center here, I'm going to fill this with an epoxy resin. Now this isn't frozen pizza. You can't just pick them up at the store, pop them in the oven for 20 minutes, and they be decent. Unfortunately, comes the most boring but vital step of it all. Prep work. I kind of cheated because I started already. What I've been doing is just taking this wood chisel. Actually, that's not a wood chisel. Nice try though, Zach. It's actually a hand plane and more accurately a block plane. Now, while using the block plane gets the job done, what would have been easier to use was a draw knife, which allows you to pull along the edge of the wood using 2 hands. It results in getting the bark off in a lot smoother stroke. Hey, I never claimed to be a master woodworker. It's called Zach Does Everything, not Zach is really good at woodworking and has all the tools necessary for the job. And going along the edge here, just trying to get kind of some of the loose chunks of the bark off. I don't want to get too much of it off because I want to keep that live edge look, obviously, but see how it looks. And shout out to CU Wood Shop, really cool place here in town. They have their own mill, they have their own kiln. They cut and dry everything, and plus they have a lot of woodworking tools there too. Very cool place. If you're in the Champaign-Urbana area, I'd highly recommend checking it out. I think that's pretty good. I'm still gonna sand this all too, so I'm just trying to get a workable surface for my sand. See that? For any of you watching who are woodworkers, I'm fully aware there's a better way to do this. I just don't have the tools. So one of the main goals in going over the barked side of the edges is really just to clean them up so that there's a smooth and workable surface for the epoxy to hold to. You don't want anything too rough, otherwise the clear coat won't adhere well. Also, if there's any loose pieces, that's just going to cause problems later on down the road. So what I sought to do here was to keep the general shape of the live edge and look of it, but just clean it up a little bit so it was one smooth surface.
Suckers aren't white.
That they are not. In fact, the average dried weight of Macaquaba is about 59 pounds per cubic foot. For context, a common pine board like Western pine only weighs about 27 pounds per cubic foot. And for those of you who learned math via Common Core, that means that Macaquaba is more than 2 times heavier than a comparable pine board.
I'm still trying to figure out what edge I want to use as my front. I thought it would be this right here, but I really like this edge too, so I don't have to make that decision yet. Got a nice little crack there. Goes all the way through. I didn't really notice that before, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Alright, so now I finished going over the edges, mostly. So now I'm on to sanding. These boards are pretty smooth to begin with, so they shouldn't need a whole lot of sanding. But yeah, look at these edges. That's just going to be so cool.
Now, if I were to redo this, I would have skipped this step for 2 reasons. Number 1, as I said, the boards were pretty smooth already. If anything, a quick pass with a medium grit sandpaper would have been enough to prepare it for the epoxy pour. And B, and this is the main reason, we end up planing, sanding, and resurfacing the whole desk later on anyway, so this step was basically just a waste of time.
So for sanding, I've got a 80 grit, a 100 grit, and a 150 grit. I probably should have gotten a 220, but realistically, all of this is going to get covered in a thicker polyurethane coat, so if it's not perfectly smooth, it'll be fine. Let's get started with that. Folks, also I'm here to tell you that when I was getting ready to buy a sander, hold on a second. Had to pull that freaking extension cord from Narnia. When I was getting ready to buy a sander, I went between a good old-fashioned cordless or a battery-powered, and as you can see there, battery-powered should have gone with it. But we got what we got, starting with the 80 grit. Just now noticing that down here, there's kind of a lip, which theoretically can be taken out by a planer, but that means we have to plane the whole thing.
Which we did. More on that to come.
Problem for another day.
If you're still watching at this point, props to you. Really appreciate it. Go ahead and do the whole like, follow, subscribe thing. I know this doesn't seem very glorious, and prep work usually isn't, but it is a vital process of any project. If you're not prepared, you're going to have problems later on. I'm sure there's some sort of alliterative saying that we can make out of that, and there probably is one. But for now, I'll just say prepare or be square.
The tiniest notch in the world, and I caught it with the sander. Luckily it's not a big groove, but probably once I fix it, it will be a big groove. Coming along really nice. Just gonna do the 150 grit and then I'll be done for the day with these. Let's see if I can open this one up any better. Nope. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Last little bit. My prong popped off. How did that happen? I got my cowboy butt in my nose. So that's it for today. Sanding it down from 80 to 100 to 150 grit. It's really smooth. I'm really happy with how the edges turned out. These edges, they were pretty rough before, but they are really, really smooth now. Like almost no splintering, even on this edge here. It's still pretty rough, but it's a lot better than it was. So it's turned out really well. I'm really excited for how it's gonna turn out.
In the next video, I will be going more into the prep work, but don't let that discourage you because I get to use a new toy in that video. Don't be weird. So I will see you next time for Epoxy Desk Building 2 Electric Boogaloo.